back to Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays, where we take a midweek break from the gaming madness and focus more on the technology behind the gaming. That's right, it is Linux. I'm Vince Stone.
I am Pedro Mateos, and we're just poking Twitch at that point.
And I am Matthew Commando.
Okay, lads, let's just get right into it because it turns out that... Yeah, making gaming PC in 2016 is the hard.
Building PC is hard, man.
So
Would be if you were to take Emmanuel Mayberg's words at face value. Yes, this comes from motherboard.vice.com. Apparently, it's a website on the Vice network. And he goes through a tirade. Basically, that's what it is. It is a tirade. On what exactly he had to do to get his PC up and running. He got all the parts. He asked an opinion from someone at PC Gaming, or PC Gamer, sorry, that's the one. And he got a few, ideas and got the specs and bought all the parts and put the PC together himself. And then he goes on about having to read manuals, and you don't need manuals nowadays because everything on the motherboard is labeled. And this article is exactly why the PC Gaming Master Race moniker is never going to go away. There's always going to be a scrub with a media platform such as Motherboard Advice, who can't help but make himself a martyr for the PC Gaming Master Race elitists. Also, this entire quote-unquote article has an overt tone of whining to it. I was almost willing to excuse it right until you get to the second to last paragraph, where it says, it doesn't have to be this way. PC overall sales are down, but if you examine PC hardware companies that cater to gamers, they're actually growing. There's a market here because PC is so clearly the best place to play games. It's a relatively open platform. He's talking about Windows there. Linux over here. That gives players the widest selection of games to choose from and the ability to modify those games for free. The only thing you can't do on PC is play exclusives, blah, 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 for the consoles.
Exclusives.
And then, here's how he ends the article. Sadly, most players will never make the switch because they rightly assume that it's too much of a headache. I can tell you with some authority, it is.
Well, one of my favorite things when I saw this was Total Bisquick just came right out. This is how I was made aware of this article today. And he said, if you're complaining that a PC is too hard to build, then you probably shouldn't call your site Motherboard.
That's really on point, yes.
All right. First of all, the dude already had a monitor, and he still dumped $2,000 into a box. And yes, it had a neon light. For those of you listening at home, think about that. And he also threw away another 100 wet, stinky caches because he was just lazy, man. He was like, I need to get all my parts in one place. I don't want to do shopping around like a normal person. Mm-hmm. And what really amazed me, I mean, if you were building PCs in the 80s, heck, I mean, even the 90s, late 90s, you're probably just sitting back like I was, having a good laugh at this whiny millennial failure of a human being. And kind of like Pedro did better than me. Because soon as he started talking about reading these manuals, whatever be this moon magic, I just noped right there. I was like, that's crazy talk. Strider?
Mm-hmm. There's not much to read. I mean, to build a machine nowadays, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. The only thing, I build a machine once every 5 years, basically. That's maybe I'll upgrade something. So the last time I built a machine, I was kind of discovering the new stuff that had been going on in the past years, and it's got simpler and not more complex. So you can. Just spend a couple days every 5 years, spend $1,000. You don't need to spend $2,000 for a machine. I mean, that's way overkill. And you need to buy the most popular and with the best power per money ratio, and it should be good. I mean, it's not that hard to make good choices. And that's what I did last year, and I'm pretty happy with it. And it wasn't a headache at all. Okay, I've been building PCs for the past 15 years, but even if this was my first machine, I mean, it wasn't really hard.
Everything is labeled nowadays. That's the thing. But hey,
yeah, and
let's move on.
If you can't even do that, just build a pre-built gaming machine. I mean, a Steam machine or something like that. I mean, that works fine too.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's feel
Happy
old.
birthday to you.
Happy birthday. Linux turns
Who's a big boy
25, and that's right. You can pick from one of 3 amazing anniversary dates, because we would consider Linux 25th birthday to be August 25th, or maybe October 5th, or who knows? All we know is sometime this year it will turn 25 years old, and as part of the 22-year Linux Master Race, I say good on that.
Mm-hmm. So you used Linux before it was 1.0 or?
Oh yeah, I was installing Slackware on a stack of 144s way before it was 1.0.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the only thing that is regrettable is it didn't became big and professional like new.
Yes.
So.
Nah, for one, I only started dabbling in Linux about 11 years ago when I went to university, but I didn't actually commit and just go full Linux all the time till 5 years ago. So,
hey man, it's definitely come a long way. I remember like the first time I genuinely thought it was like, all right, this is it. We have a functioning. I remember this. It was Red Hat 5.2, so 95, 96, somewhere in there, and it was After Step desktop, and it actually, I after some fudgery, I could make it X server work. Not well, but it worked, and that's what we were aiming for. And I was like, yeah, we're here, man. I'm going to rock and roll with this from here on out, and I've kind of stuck with that. It's kind of amazing to see where it's gone, because I mean, this show, all of us, we're all using Linux on all ends. We're switching video, we're recording things, we're streaming things, and yeah, good job, good progress, Linus. And I love Linus because there's such
this week has been
a lot of Linux users are like, peace and love, and Linux is like, hey, NVIDIA, what? Right there.
Eat it.
Yeah, my type of guy. But Foxfire, buyer beware.
Ooh, yes. Firefox, apparently they're swimming in money. I didn't tell anyone.
Uh-oh.
No, this is, as you know, Mozilla kind of struck a deal with Yahoo a while back, when we didn't exactly know the specifics of those, but we do now. And apparently Mozilla is getting annual payments of $375 million US just from having the Yahoo search engine be the default in the browser. And this will be, this will keep going until 2019. Even if, say, Mozilla gets sold off to another company.
Well, not Mozilla. If Yahoo ends up getting sold.
Yahoo.
But here's the thing about that. Because, they're set to get that $375 million until 2019, or until whoever buys Yahoo tells them to just saw it off. Because what's the foundation going to do? Go, but. And they're just like, what? You really want to get in a lawsuit? Come on.
Yeah, no, almost $400 million a year for shipping a default setting, which just about everyone's going to change. Sounds like a pretty good plan to me.
Everyone's going to change that from Yahoo to Google. So, I mean, it's pretty sad for Yahoo, because they're paying a whole bunch of money, and everyone is going to change it to Google anyway. But I wasn't aware that Yahoo was getting bought by. We don't know yet, but it's pretty.
Well, it's been up for sale multiple times, and they want to split it apart and do that. And they're like, search, it's not part of their core anymore. I don't even think they're working with Bing. I could be wrong, so correct me in the comments. But the thing is, I mean, who was it pointed out? I mean, it's like some of their core, like Flickr and stuff like that. That might have some value. Their sports section and stuff like that. Their financial. But outside of that, I mean, Yahoo's tried to do a million things. They even tried to launch their own video service late last year or early this year, and they hired a bunch of talent, and that just went. So
it's Yahoo. It's a sinking ship. Run.
It is, and except the two products that are not Yahoo branded, which are Tumblr and Flickr, those are doing great. But
Well, Tumblr is.
except that, and they seem to have done a lot of bad decisions over the past years. So yeah, they're trying to keep their heads up, but not doing that great. And I mean, I can understand why they're being sold. They've been here for forever. But yeah, the thing is, if they get bots and Firefox decides to keep the money and change their default search engine because Yahoo wouldn't provide one, they could cash in like from two different search engines. So Yahoo from one side, and I don't know, maybe Google.
I don't think we're going to be seeing the Google. I mean, when they parted ways with Google, and that was kind of a thing a lot of people were sitting back thinking about. And they're like, well, now Google has their own web browser and that. And at that time, Mozilla was like, maybe we're going to try to diversify outside of the web browser thing. So we'll go with the Yahoos and all that. If Google picked them back up, it would be charity at best, man.
Yeah, a very, very expensive and, profitable charity, maybe.
But you know what's not a charity? Us.
Yes, no, we're not. Definitely not.
Because trust me, I've tried to make it tax deductible. They won't let it happen. But we are talking about you, Patreons, people who support this show, make this show happen, along with Linux Gamecast Weekly. And speaking of that, we just did a new Trying Again. Oh, wow, did we break the game.
That poor engine.
15 minutes in, we thoroughly broke
You really
the
seem
game.
to have a hard time with this game. I mean, I finished it and it was pretty straightforward.
Have you played it in multiplayer?
Yes, once, and it was horrible, and I didn't know how to play.
There we go. There it is.
Yeah, but then I played the whole game from start to finish. Didn't have really any issue.
Single player.
If you watch the videos, you will see this game turn into the glitch fest it is. But that's aside from the point, because if you find maybe informative, maybe if the other show makes you laugh, maybe once a week, maybe kick us a quarter a show. That's $1 a month. You're gonna get things in return. We got a bunch of extra videos and stuff along. I think something like 78 Patreon exclusives, early access. You're gonna get access to our show notes. Bunch of things. Just head over to patreon.com/Linux Gamecast. See if there's anything there you like. And hey, man, if you're just like, I'm just going to watch it, that's great. That's awesome. There's no worries there. But do keep in mind, maybe when you see it, hit that reshare button, on the Twitters or on the Facebooks or the Google Pluses, because that really does help a lot, even if you don't think it does.
Tell your mom, tell your grandma, tell your cat.
Brilliant.
We'll take them. All right, so this is exciting, quote unquote.
Thunderbolt and lightning, very, very frightening. Skype for Linux Alpha is calling. Oh my God, it's a thing! And man, did they hype this up about like a week in advance, and pretty much everyone sit back and like, oh, so they're gonna update the 4-year-old client with ads, or they're gonna make it WebRTC. Turns out they cocked up both of those. We didn't get ads. We did kind of get something that's WebRTC-ish, but, oh, wow, you can't make this up. Good guy Microsoft. They released the alpha today, and it doesn't support video.
Yeah, that was the thing I was going on about. It's like, okay, so this is ghetto Skype with just video. And then Ben was like, no, the video thing, it's not working. Apparently they said video calling is definitely one of the key features we plan to add to Skype for Linux.
Yeah, they are working on it at least. That's a good to know. And it shouldn't be too hard because all the other WebRTC platforms, they do video and they don't have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And
yeah, nothing to see here.
Well, apparently it can now join group calls. So I don't know. I mean, they've managed, the new alpha version has roughly 15 to 18% of the functionality of their existing 4.5-year-old client. So good job, Microsoft. Keep it up.
And it will be the Electron app of the week because usually cover one app per week on average, which is made with Electron, so the Node framework. And this is it. This is just basically a Chromium browser in a Debian package.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Cool.
Electron framework by any other name. But hey, have you ever been in that situation where you said to yourself, I love Unity. I am a filthy dual-booting heathen, and I love
Pedro, I'm
Unity.
going to stop you right there because I do my best to stay out of situations where loaded guns are pointed at my head.
Hold on.
All right.
I am a filthy dual-booting heathen, and I love Unity. I wish I could use the Unity desktop environment in Windows. Well then, oddly specific person that we happen to have on the podcast, there it is. It works. So if you have the bash running on Windows 10, you can actually run Unity and XFC, and in theory, all of the other desktop environments and window managers will also work. Of course, there are some issues with dbus right now, and the VCX server process under Windows likes to crash a lot, so that's not exactly reliable. But yeah, this is just, well, KDE already worked under Linux.
They had a version of KDE for years now. I mean,
for
10 years ago they had
KDE for Windows and for Mac. It had them both.
I don't know. So, I mean, you can get this up and running. First, after you just get past the big why question mark, and you get around that, and you're like, okay, we dodged that one. So what does this do, Strider? I mean, does this now can like little Timmy down the street feel like elite Linux hacksaw?
I mean, sure, but it's still very experimental. It seems kind of slow. And what's interesting is that you can actually run compiz. So there is some basic 3D support here.
The Gallium GDI driver from Mesa does work in their Windows. You can actually build it on Windows and use it. Everything else, it's probably software based.
Yeah, the rest is software. I know there was a bunch of dbus issues, but other than that, it seems to be pretty good. And I mean, there's a bunch of people who have a hard time running it in the GitHub comments, but I may give it a try when I test Bash on Windows. I still haven't tried that, and doesn't have any use really.
Yeah,
because if you're going to run Linux software, that's not what you would want to run.
Man, little Timmy can feel like elite Linux hacker, and he can go, well, I've ran the 7 Linux, and yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. But lads, have you ever, just got done playing your Pokemon Go and said, wow, I would really like to use Google Docs, but it's too much of an invasion of privacy?
Let's give it to someone else who we know nothing about.
Because OnlyOffice is here to save you. And on top of that, breaking birthday news. They got some new things. What is this? You never heard of it? Well, it's basically the only thing that exists that is a Google Docs like open source re-implementation. And, this new version has a couple of things that you would think would be there, but I'm glad they added them. I'm not knocking the project, but now you currently commenting and integrated chat along with version history. That's a thing now. Bonus soda on that. But I didn't even know this exists. And I'm reading my notes that are brought to you courtesy of Google Docs. Strider?
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool that we have an open source Google Docs alternative because we didn't have anything usable yet. I mean, there was some efforts to port OpenOffice or LibreOffice in the cloud. It's still very experimental.
Now, they do have this. I didn't notice that they do have CRM and invoicing. That's kind of...
Oh, yeah. And they do have a desktop software under Linux, and you have to pay for it. If you're not a subscriber for their SaaS products, you have to pay for an Office suite under Linux, which is, I mean, why would anyone want to buy this? And I know I'm not the typical Office suite user. I usually use text processing or spreadsheets as a last resort.
Mm-hmm.
But and still, it's nice to have the option.
I don't know. I mean, I agree with that. If you catch me inside of a spreadsheet, something has went catastrophically wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, it has been known to happen.
All right. For me, I just use Google Docs. They work offline too, so I can just use those. Yeah. But hey, you remember a while back when there was that math bug in Skylake processors that just, they kind of went nuts. And we're still waiting on the day that's going to happen to Jordan. That's our co-host for Linux Gamecast Weekly. But there was a new issue that cropped up with the latest Linux driver, Linux kernel, actually. And some of the microcode that Intel committed to help, I actually looked it up and I can't remember right now, but they introduced some bit of microcode that just wasn't working. And if you were running Fedora, which is actually has some more recent version of the kernel than, say, Ubuntu or any of the other common mainstream distros. And it was causing systems to just outright not boot. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can sort of work around it. It's just the what was his name?
You can disable the microcode at boot time.
Yeah,
on the
you can either revert to an older kernel, or you can add the kernel. You can add dis underscore u code underscore LDR to the kernel line in grub, or you can just downgrade the microcode underscore CTL package to version 2.1-11, which doesn't have this bug, and just reboot, and you should be fine. Of course, I remember when Fedora used to ship like cutting edge software instead of broken software.
Yeah, but this is here. I think Intel is to blame for that, because they released that microcode, and this is a bit of closed source code that Fedora people don't have access to, so they can't retest it. So Intel shouldn't consider Fedora users as their QA team. They should do some testing before pushing those things out, because that's not something the Linux distributions can fix once it's out. So I found this a bit surprising that it went and got released without getting caught earlier.
Well, I mean, that's also true, but I mean, it was last week, a week before, I put my Fedora 24 on, fit very snugly, and it was, somebody who's been using Fedora since Core 1. It's like 24 is kind of like cuddly and snuggy, man. I was like, oh, this is like works out of the box. Weird. But you can't forget, there's still going to be things in Fedora. I think Truggy just said it right there. Cutting edge. It's going to cut you sometimes. Speaking of cutting edge.
So there was an announcement on the Solus project. So this new distribution that's been around. We've talked about this distribution in the past, and it aims to have this stable core.
I don't know what is bothering me more right now, Strider. Operation Go more faster, or the Autobots rollout cat GIF.
The cat GIF is all right. Yeah, so their goal is to have a stable core and up-to-date apps. And what they said, they did a pretty good job at getting this stable core, but at some point it didn't make sense not to be a rolling release. So that's what they are now. They are a rolling release, and I don't think there's been one release yet. So yeah, it's a rolling release, and you can just keep updating that. So it's kind of
there
neat.
has been the 1.0 release. It was a while back, and they released 1.2 not too long ago. Remember when we talked about those strangely repeated benchmarks?
Yeah,
that was
the
for
benchmarks.
1.2.
Well, my favorite thing is, they've basically been sticking with some LTS type stuff, and I've always wanted to see the fallout from a distro going from something based on LTS to rolling, because popcorn all the things. I mean, it's going to be brilliant.
You can have stable things and in a rolling manner.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
Which
not
was
exclusive.
You don't really necessarily have to keep to the bleeding edge if you're going to be rolling. You don't have to be arch. What do I know? It's not like Fuduntu was pushing 12 terabytes out of the stable repository on a slow month or anything.
Well, Brad, that is kind of slow because our podcast pushes
for some
about
strange
8.
reason, I want to try this distro. I mean, it looks kind of neat, and usually I don't really get excited. And if you scroll down to the new packages for his updates, you might notice one package we talked about in the past,
all right.
which is Lutris.
We've actually found a reason
extract
to never use this ever. It has Lutris in it. Just
it has Lutris now.
Yeah, stay away from it. Run. Don't walk. Set it on fire behind you. Scorched earth policy on thesolusproject.com. But no, seriously, go check it out. This will be in our show notes. If you're watching this on YouTube, there'll be a link to that. Click that, and it'll take you to our web zone, and you can check that business out. But let's count to 12. Not.
Yes. Are you one of those people who happens to have an Intel-based laptop, or perhaps even an AMD-based laptop with an APU? Have you been using the Mesa drivers? Well, now you get 12.0 stable. It still hasn't made it into most mainstream distros, so keep that in mind. But if you, say, are running the OIBAF PPA or the Padoka Zero PPA, you already have this. In fact, you're probably running on a development version, which is even more up to date. But the new version is stable, so chances are it will probably make it into, say, Ubuntu 16.10. And if you want to update 16.04 to the .1 release, you will probably get this as well. Of course, this is just speculation on my part right now. We don't have confirmation. But you actually can get it if you go to the Mesa Git and fork the stable branch, or clone the stable branch, and you can actually build it and run it, and you get OpenGL 4.3 for NVC 0, that's the Fermi architecture, and Radeon SI, and i965 Gen 8 Plus, which means that if you're running anything Broadwell and up, you get OpenGL 4.3. And unless you care about performance, you can probably play all the games on Steam for Linux on an Intel GMA. Why not?
Well, I mean, that's one of the things I took away from it. I was like, all right, finally a Vulkan driver for the Intel Ivy Bridge. And I was like, that's neat. But I don't know if that necessarily means that you're going to be able to run out and play your Talos Principles or your Dota 2s. But
actually, you can play Talos.
If you can, send us some benchmarks and some screens.
I should try it, because it will support my Broadwell CPU, so okay. I may give it a try. I mean, I was surprised that it didn't require the Skylake things. This is the biggest, most weighted release from Mesa in the past years. I mean, it has OpenGL 4, has Vulkan. Yeah, this is a huge release. It's a good thing.
All right. Well, let's not fix what's not broken, right?
Okay, so I found this little script, which is for SteamOS, and it will repair your system if it is slightly broken. So I found this really neat. It's not something that is official, made by Valve. It's something that is made by a community member. You may know him. We may have talked about him on Linux Gamecast Weekly, Professor Chaos 64.
Wait, is a sidekick General Disarray around?
Probably, yeah, not that far. So what it does, it will detect if the system isn't booting properly. It will try to repair the package manager. It will try to do some other things like with DKMS and a bunch of other like simple. It's quite simple, but it's I found the concept brilliant because this is something we should have by default on every distro. I mean, things get broken, and the computers have the power to self-diagnose themselves, and yet they don't do that. And I found it really regrettable that we don't have
that's
such
one of the
features.
things that Linux is different from Windows, is that in Windows, this kind of stuff would be there from the get-go and not tell anyone that it was there. Under Linux, that's not the point. The point under Linux is that the user always knows, or at least has an idea of what is running at any given point. So I'm not so sure we should start including automated scripts that run without the user knowing about them.
Well, my biggest thing with this is
why wouldn't they know about them? I
this
mean,
is for SteamOS, and
Yeah.
let's just be honest with each other. SteamOS typically doesn't break itself, Brad. It usually breaks when people start poking it and trying to make it do something other than, I don't know, launch Steam and play games.
Yeah.
So
No, for
I'm going to
example,
give you a
what
bit
it
of a
does-
pro tip. If you want to do something other than boot directly into Steam Big Picture mode and play games, install another distro. Then maybe you won't even need a tool like this, right?
No,
Yeah.
For example, the use case for this script is if you get a power loss during updates, then your package manager is kind of in a broken state, and this will run the few commands that will fix everything. And the problem, if we had those tools, that would change the point of view of several Linux users that won't even update their systems because they don't know how to fix it. So they will do a clean install every time, because if they update it and something went wrong, they wouldn't know how to fix it. And it's quite simple, actually.
I mean, flying spaghetti monster forbid you spend these 7, possibly 8 minutes to reinstall SteamOS.
Yeah, because SteamOS is literally just DD it into a flash drive, plug it in, run it.
Yeah, but
Boom,
then
it's
you have to
installed.
reinstall all your games and everything. It's not about the system, it's
Pro
about the
tip,
data.
install them on a separate drive.
Yeah, and another thing,
partition.
SteamOS isn't exactly targeted at the kind of people who know how to fix everything, or even to know that.
Oh, remember the
this
first
kind of-
version of SteamOS that came out? You plugged it in and just wiped everything on whatever machine. Good times. Okay, well, it's not raining men, it's raining pies, because the weather forecast today is probably unavailable for sale at your local retailer. We're
Did it
talking
catch
about
fire? No.
RPI weather. This is an interesting little piece of kit that will show you a couple of icons depending on what the weather is like. Now, if you're looking on the video as I frantically scroll, it will tell you if it's sunny, rain, cloud, showers, storms, snow, or none of the above. That's when it's time to get the shotgun and wait for the zombies. But after you're done with that, no, I mean, this was designed for the original Raspberry Pi, the Model A. So you might actually be able to get it. Well, you could probably just run this on anything. But you do need a little bit of a graphical display. Adafruit has that, pretty cheap. You can put it in some hipster, wood-colored box or something like that and be like, oh, that's neat. Fun project, good learning project, hella difficult sell in the world of, okay, Google. Yeah, what's the weather forecast? And it does that business. The only issue I have with the graphical representation is it lacks one for meatballs. Gentlemen.
Yeah, I mean, I find it's overkill.
Go ahead.
I find it overkill to use Raspberry Pi for such a project, but it's a cute project.
Yeah.
The case looks neat. That's what makes the project looks good. I mean, but you can always use the remaining 99% of your hardware resources by, you can run a bunch of servers on your
And
Pi.
let me correct this. Any 4 Adafruit 8x8 LED matrices with I2C backpack. All right.
And this is only useful for people who live in the US, because you need the zip code. So if you live outside the US and you would like to try this, you're going to have to dig into the source code and change that yourself.
Right. So that's going to do it for our regular news. Pedro, how can people get in contact with us?
Well, there are several ways they can get in touch with us. Before I forget, you can always leave us a comment on Patreon. If you see the post come up on Patreon, you can leave us a comment there. We'll get back to you, just so I don't forget. You can also leave a comment on the YouTube video. If you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, you might want to track down the original post and leave us a comment there, because we don't really get notifications if you comment, I don't know, on your cousin's post. Chances are we're not going to see it. On Google Plus, if you comment on either my share, Ven's share, or Strider's share, or even Empty's share, we might actually be able to get back to you on that one. But the usual way that you can get in touch with us is linuxgamecast.com, contact button, fill the form, pick if you want to send some feedback for Linux Weekly Daily Wednesday, or some hate mail for Linux Gamecast Weekly. And some people actually hit the button this week, apparently. H54. He was talking about his gaming laptop, says, "Hey guys, love both shows. Ouch. Keep up the good work. I'm a patron, blah, 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 blah. I like you already." Not too long ago, there was a comment on System 76 relatively new offering of the RX Pro. To paraphrase your thoughts, overpriced with meh hardware. I'm pretty sure that was exactly what Ben said. System 76 rebrands and recustomizes their Sager/Clevo laptop, so I decided to find the equivalent Sager machine, the NP8657-S, for cheaper. At the time of the mention on Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays, I had only had it for about a month. And he goes through the specs. It's a Skylake i7 6700 HQ, a GTX 970M, 69 IPS. That's a pretty good monitor. 1080p, 16 gigs of RAM, 250 gig Samsung H50 Evo.
Summarize.
That's a pretty good laptop right there. And the specs sound very similar to, say, Strider's desktop PC, and very similar to mine in some way, except it has the Intel. And that's actually what he says. He had an FX 8370 AMD processor and a GTX 970 desktop. And he got rid of that apparently and bought this laptop. And he now gets considerably better performance in some games, which is not surprising.
Yeah, you should be able to run pretty much everything.
Yeah, man. He's saying he's got decent settings on Arc, which, if you can play that, good on you. Medium to high and north of 40 FERPs. The only complaint is battery life. Well, I mean, when you got a monster like that, the only thing the battery is used for is to unplug it, to take it to another part of your house. It keeps it, it's like a UPS. It just keeps it running until you get to another outlet in your house, man. What were you saying, Strider?
Yeah, I mean, you don't buy such a machine for battery life. I mean, that doesn't make any sense if you want something. I mean, maybe it does have Optimus, so if you turn off the NVIDIA card, maybe you can get some more battery life. But yeah, the only thing I'm not sure about is, I mean, he skipped the whole System 76 parts, but I mean, it's also nice to support those people who.
Well, System 76, I'll say this: they're high-end laptops. I mean, if you need the support and you want the support and you want that safety net, go for that. And their high-end laptops are good. Their low-end laptops are not. Mm-hmm. Simple as that.
Yeah, it's rebranded.
All of
rebranded laptops,
Clevos and Sagers, and it's for $1,400. This is a pretty good laptop. Mm-hmm. It'll keep you going for the next few years without an issue.
Yeah, $1,399. That's roughly 8,000 pounds. So it's not a bad deal. But we are the 2%, right?
Or the 2.4.
Regarding the 2.4, remember that many people choose. Well, this comes from Injul. Remember that many people choose to spoof their user agent to be Windows 7 privacy concerns just to hide in the majority, as if their IP address is not enough to track them already, but oh well. The emoticon with the eye thingies. Point is, Linux is probably closer to double that, in my opinion. Each to their own. I'm going to be honest with you. Show of whatever's. Does anyone here spoof their user agent in 2016?
No, I don't know anyone who does.
Well, I had to do it for my parents because Silverlight will not work if it detects it coming. It's coming
weird
from
occasion. The last time I can think I spoofed anything is before Netflix performed that reverse cranial rectal inversion.
Silverlight, yes.
Right. Yeah, and you had to use that weird Firefox wine.
Yep. Silverlight.
Yeah. You had to do that. And like way before that, we're talking like maybe 2006, 2007. One of my banks was like, oh, you need to be on like IE 2.6, man. What are you trying to pull on me? And you could just change it. And, exaggerating a bit, it's probably like 1.0 with that stupid bank. And, but that made that work. I would like to think that it's more than 2.4, but Strider, I think that's a reasonably realistic number, question mark.
It depends on what people you ask. I mean, this was for the net market share stats, and those are for a given number of websites. If you take the stats from Wikipedia, for example, you'll get different numbers, and if you take W3 schools, you'll get a much higher Linux number because it's mostly developers. Yeah, we can't really know for sure what's the number of Linux users. I don't think it's double than 2.4%. That's
on the consumer market anyway, it's probably around 2.4. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. I mean, definitely a thing, because everything's going to be skewed. It's like, man, everyone runs Linux if you look at linuxgamecast.com traffic, but I'm sure it might look just a bit different if I was like at a WinSupersite or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Probably.
And I'm guessing Android reports the user agent as being Android specifically. Google wouldn't let that go through as Linux, which still explains the teeny tiny fragment of the market, and it makes sense. It's probably 2.4. That's probably right.
Yeah, and just remember, I mean, if you're using some weird user agent in 2016, do something, Mr. Cruz, cat, and just come out of the closet. I mean, show your tux, man. Let your tux flag fly. It's going to be brilliant. But that's going to close our show up. I've been Vin Stone.
I am Pedro Mateos.
And I am Matthew Commando.
We'll see you next week, actually. Pedro and I will see you Saturday.
Oh, yeah. Bye.
Bye.
That's painful. Bye.
Bye.
What, did you try to smile or something?
It broke him a little bit.